Hi, I'm Amy here with Game Skinny, and this is Peng from Frog Dice, and we're just going to have a quick chat about women in gaming and some of the themes and situations that we see occurring and that Peng has some great insights on. So you're a mom,
Yes.
You have 2 young daughters, and you're a woman in the gaming industry,
Yes.
so that probably gives you a whole slew of perspectives on this.
Well, yes, especially since I design our games.
Really?
My husband is also a game designer, but our company made a conscious decision for me to do the primary game design. It's not just because I'm a woman and I'm designing towards women, just because I am a woman. Does that make sense? We don't design towards women, but the fact that we have a woman game designer will naturally appeal to things that you don't even think about that just come naturally. And we do disagree about a lot of things. We talk about game design, and we love the same games, but we love vastly different things about the same games. So obviously there's something there, and I think it's kind of intangible. So the only way to really get it is to incorporate women in game design itself. And, it's a great start to have women writers. It's a great start to have women in your staff in general. Mm-hmm. When they get there and in there and they start doing the game design, that's where you really get a big impact.
That's great. What are some of the moments you think have been impacted by maybe the female perspective in your games?
I have to say the fact that almost all our games have over 50% women players, and they're all role-playing fantasy games.
Wow.
That's a very low number, and I'm not saying that there aren't women that already play it, but we are consistently over 50%.
Wow.
And we have one game that is a hardcore role-playing game. It's 17 years old, and I played it. And one of the reasons I stayed is because there were so many other women players. I never felt intimidated. I felt very welcome. The community is totally different, as opposed to playing some of the games that I really like also that are heavily PvP games, I mean, it's just a very different environment.
I know that one. You get into the chat and everyone goes silent because there's a girl here.
Yes.
So.
Or, you get on voice chat, and that's when they really freak out. And they're like, are you really a girl? No, I'm just faking it.
I know. I logged into an alpha chat once, and I got in there and said, hey, guys, and then silence. It's like,
but
all right.
I want to say that almost every guy I've ever met on any game has been extremely supportive, respectful, and honestly, they just treat me as a gamer.
Yeah.
They expect me to be able to carry my weight if I'm playing in a PvP game. They will give me a hard time if I mess up, and they will praise me just like they do their buddies when I mess up, and I really like that. And there's very, very few times I've run into guys that are like, oh, you're a girl, you never play,
Yep.
I'm very happy when I just steamroll them. But, I'm going to say that I think most of the gaming community, it's only the very few that are just obnoxious. They just unfortunately get a whole lot of press,
Yeah. So how do you envision games changing the way that your daughters perceive the community, or what it would be the gaming future you'd want them to experience?
Well, I want them to be able to play any game and not feel self-conscious about it, because there's nothing to be proven there. You play games for your enjoyment. And I also want them to pass on to their daughters all the stuff that you can learn from gaming. The persistence, the problem solving, the strategies, the logic, all that stuff is so vitally important for girls and boys.
And that's actually really critical to a lot of science and engineering professions that are typically very low female rates. So
yes, very much
gaming
so.
could even be a way to kind of improve feminine engagement in those fields.
And the emotional impact that games have on people, I think will imprint some of that logic, some of that math, more into my girls. I mean, my girls are excellent in math and science and reading, and I feel a lot of it is because some of it they've learned from gaming, and I know how it was for me, because I have a little brother who is like my best friend, and we played every single game. Kid Icarus, all the Marios, all that stuff. And some of it, I just watched him play. And just watching him play, I learned a lot, I mean, some of the stuff that I felt I couldn't do, he was happy to do for me, and that's the same with us. Like, if our little girls can't do something, they'll be, Mommy, Daddy, can you beat this boss for us? We'll be like, yeah, sure. This is how you do it. And we'll figure out the strategy together. Even if we know the strategy, we will say, okay, what do you think we should do?
You turn it into a learning exercise.
Exactly. And
Excellent.
that's, it's just time and parenting. That's all it is, and it's just another tool to be used. It's not an enemy. Now, if you just throw your kids in front of a video game and never interact with them, never be a part of it, of course it's going to have a negative impact on them, But if you're there, you're telling them how to think through things. You know, what's the point of having this boss? You know, look at what he's doing, be observant. They're learning the whole time you're doing that. I mean, I let my girls play Diablo 3, and that's a little age inappropriate for them because my little girl started crying when Cain died, and I'm sorry if that's a spoiler for anybody. But then, you know, I mean, that's something you learn also. I mean, we learn as parents too, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have let her play Diablo 3, you know, but you know, who knew, like, this story that was, like, kind of like, oh, okay, Cain died, you know, that's kind of sad.
I know when I played through, I was not that engaged with it. I was like, oh, Cain, man.
But to my 9-year, at the time she was 9, that was devastating for her.
Yeah.
And she wanted to talk about it. She learned from it. We had a big family discussion about it. I mean,
that can introduce a very difficult topic about grief, grieving, and death that, you know, is way harder to introduce when there's a real life event that requires it, and maybe digital platforms can provide a starting point for that conversation.
Very much so. And like I said, just there's so much to game design nowadays that there's so much to learn from games, you know, and it's girls shouldn't be blocked from that. Women just should not be blocked from that.
I think you even mentioned that Girl Scouts has a badge for it.
Yes, Girl Scouts has a badge for electronic gaming, basically, electronic game development. And our studio, since I had 2 Girl Scouts, has been a part of that. Because one of the things you have to do for the badge is to try to talk to a game developer. And since we're one of the few in Lexington, Kentucky, we try to make ourselves very available. We go to schools all the time to talk to them early about, hey, you know, this is something girls can think about doing too. Because as they get older, they don't even think they have the option. It never occurs to them that this is something women can do. It's like, I don't know how it happens. Somewhere between grade school and middle school, girls lose the ability to think they can play games. And that's kind of a shame. Because, I mean, it's a great, I met my husband through a game, you know. We were both in law school, and I went and played his game. And he was like, oh, you're in law school, I'm in law school, we both hate it, you know. I mean, it's a way to really meet people. And I've also read that it's a way to date. Because if you're raiding together, you're already relying on each other. You're learning to trust each other, you know. That's a safe way to date.
One of my closest friends is a WoW player who met her current longtime fiance through WoW, and they were in complete opposite parts of the country. They raided together. She actually pretended not to know how to play a mage, so she had an excuse to go talk to him.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty slick.
That's pretty smart. Yep.
But it teaches you how you work together under pressure.
Yes, that's right. And you learn to rely on each other. It's kind of weird, but you really do. You learn to rely on each other and trust each other. And that's what dating is. You know, you learn to rely on the guy showing up on time, making plans together and stuff like that. And that's what rating is.
Yeah.
You know, that's what playing the games together is. So there's so many opportunities that I don't want my little girls to miss just because there might be some stigma against gaming. So in our household, there's no stigma against gaming. And we work really, really hard to make sure that women in games are prominent in our city, too. We have Geeks Night Out in Lexington. 30 to 40% of the attendees are women, business women.
Wow, that is really unusual.
Yeah, it really is. It's partly it's the city, partly it's like, I guess geeks are in right now.
Well, partly I think it's that you guys are creating a really strong environment for that through your core gaming community. So kudos to you guys.
Yeah, and I always tell everybody whenever we speak that if you can find a female influence in gaming for yourself, whether it's your mom, your grandmother, your daughter, go for it, because they'll bring something into your games that you don't even know is missing.
That's great. Thank you so much, Peng, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy to be here.